Good morning, and it is a good morning today. The sun's shining, it's quite bright, and it's time for another video. So today I'm going to show you my completed Maximilian German army. So it's from around 1500, so the very late medieval period, early Renaissance period. It's been on the go for a little while. I've had many of the Pike painted a couple of years back, but I've added to each of the existing Pike blocks an extra rank and added one further complete Pike block to give me 5 Pike blocks in the army. The rule set it's constructed for is Mortem et Gloriam, and there was an opportunity, a rare opportunity actually, to get these 28mm armies out on the table in a competition a couple of weeks back at Roll Call. So I took this army with me there, and a variant of it will be getting another run out in probably 3 weeks' time, a campaign in Milton Keynes. So I'll turn the camera around and show you the army, and we'll go from there. Okay? So here we have an overhead shot of the whole army. It's comprised of 5 pike blocks, then there are 2 crossbow blocks, 1 block of longbowmen, 2 blocks of handgunners, and a block of gendarmes. Now, the gendarmes are a little bit early. I didn't quite get the proper ones finished in time. They're now done, and I'll show you those in a minute. But this in front of you is the army I took to Roll Call, and it did okay. It did okay. There are certain things that came up that I would change and will change, but on the whole, it was a pretty good army to play with. When you're playing in 28mm games, infantry are the way to go. There's no room for sweeping cavalry manoeuvres. So it's an infantry-heavy meta, I suppose, is the word. Anyway, I'll look at some of the individual units now. I'll start with the generals. The chap in front of you with the flute player and the 2-handed swordsman I had already, but I had to rebase that on a 60mm diameter circle, but that had been painted earlier. The 2 guys standing here with the eagle flag, and in fact the standard bearer, are all steel fist miniatures, and they are new. They're very nice figures. They fit well with the Foundry and Perry's figures that I use throughout this army. I just love the way that the guy is stroking his beard, and a very thoughtful pose. So he was my commander-in-chief. And the chap at the back, that's Perry's as well. You can see there's a one of their Swiss hornblowers in the back there. The guy holding the flag with the blue feather has his sword sticking out to the side, which is a very irritating pose, to be honest. It's very difficult to group him with anybody else. I tried to see if I could fit him into one of the pike blocks, but the sword just keeps on getting in the way, and you can't pose him in any way that looks realistic. You just can't get around holding the sword at sort of 90 degrees like that. It's a pretty bad pose in my opinion, but on a command base he works okay. Right. Just give you a bit of a sight of the rest of them. So there we go. These are the commands for the army. This is the new Pike block I added. Now it's basically mostly the Perry's mercenary figures with the Perry's metal heads attached. I found that quite tricky actually, getting a good solid bond between the plastic and the metal head. And most of the time I had to resort to using green stuff, and occasionally, if you look closer, you'll see there's a kind of scarf effect where the neck should be, and that's where the green stuff kind of poked out. On the whole, it was fiddly, but it wasn't too bad. The main thing about this is I've mentioned before I'm having more trouble painting, so I thought I'd try some contrast effects on this one to see if I could find a slightly easier way of painting. And some of these have worked well, some have not worked so well. I'm not sure what to think about the contrast idea. It kind of works. You can see on this this guy with the green jerkin, the contrast works fine there. Not so much on the brown leggings. So in the end, I kind of used a combination of contrast effects and some sort of dry brushing over the top. All told, it worked okay. At some point, this could end up as a Swiss Pike block. It's painted in black and red, the colours of Bern, although you'll notice not all the members of the block are actually using those Canton colours. So that became the fifth Pike block to make the army. Right. Okay, I'll just show you the next unit then. Well, these are the gendarmes I didn't get done in time for the competition. I finished them now. They're steel fist, and they look okay. I'm quite pleased with the way they come out. They are pretty fiddly to put together. Each of the men has a separate head, and the feathers are separate again, and the lance and the hand holding the lance are separate. So I'm a bit suspicious of how robust they will be on the Wargames table. They look beautiful models, and they are beautiful models. I'll start giving them a turn. Now, this has been a very long process to get these 6 figures finished, and not always in a straight line. I tried to give the impression of damask, and you'll see on the yellow barding that there's a sort of texture to the yellow. It's a fairly geometric pattern in sort of light browns and yellows that's had a yellow wash put over the top to bring it together. and it works okay. I tried to do something similar on the pink Gendarme, but it was just a disaster. Didn't like it at all. I ended up having to paint over it and just go for well, it looks a flat pink here. It's not a flat pink in reality. There's some texture to it, but you can't see it so well in the camera. The guy in pink with the plume sticking straight up on his head, getting the plume to stick there was a real challenge. I ended up having to hold the helmet, with a pair of pliers, and then drill a hole in the top of the helmet in order to insert the plume. The guy in red could have had something similar, but I wasn't feeling confident enough when I was doing that one. That was probably the first one I did. So I left his plume off. I think it kind of gives a good variety with having some plumes and some not. They are very nice figures. Not cheap, but these will now be appearing in the next iteration of this army, at least as the front rank. So there you go. I don't really know what to do next. I've got Maximilian himself and his wife Mary of Burgundy as another command base, but I'm not going to start that just yet. I went and bought a few samples of resin figures from Red Copper Miniatures to see how they paint up. And the jury's out on them at the moment. They look quite dramatically posed. They've got a lot of movement in them. But there are a couple of things that kind of you go, really? Anyway, I shall leave it there.